Can Nintendo get sued over Powland? If you're not aware, I've put a few videos out on it, but Powland is a game that recently released on the Nintendo Store that is effectively an almost one-to-one but worse clone of Palworld. It's the 144p version of Palworld, but it was not developed or published by Nintendo. It was just solely released on their store by the company Bogeysoft. And in a lot of the videos I've recently released, there's a lot of comments that are along the lines of, "Oh, this is the perfect chance for Pocketpair to sue Nintendo. This is the perfect chance for them to get a countersuit in there. They can use this in court to help, say that Nintendo's guilty too." And then there's a lot of the other comments from the Nintendo stands that are very angrily and aggressively saying Nintendo did nothing wrong. All they did is let it be released on their store. They're not responsible for that. They can't be sued over this. They can't be targeted for this. It's not their fault. How dare you? And part of that is based on the fact that if you don't really pay a lot of attention to the video, you don't realize that I make it clear that Bogeysoft is not Nintendo. That's what part of the anger is about. The question at hand is, does it matter? Does it really matter whether or not Nintendo directly developed and published the game, or is the fact that they released it on their store, and I think it's also telling that it is exclusively released on their store, while in the middle of a lawsuit against Palworld, which to me I think plays a part in this, is that enough to justify a lawsuit against Nintendo regarding Powland? Possibly. From the research I've done, now again, I try to make it clear every time I talk about something like this. I am not a lawyer. I'm just some D-bag online that gets really hyperfixated on things and does way too much research. But that does not mean in any way that I am 100% correct on this. But based on what I'm seeing and based on the research I've done and based on my understanding of the way this works, I think so. I think there is grounds for a lawsuit. Now, the results of that lawsuit might be different than if the situation were slightly different, as if Nintendo was actually directly responsible for developing the game. Essentially, in the United States, in a lot of countries, and in Japan, someone who distributes a work of art or anything that infringes upon copyright can be held liable for the distribution of that copywritten material. This is the same reason why YouTube is very quick to act on anything, almost to the point of, almost to a very bad degree, on anything that gets reported as a copyright claim. Now, it is illegal to issue a fraudulent copyright claim, which is the reason why they have the appeal process, and one of the reasons why they have the appeal process, and why it's not as rampant as it could be, even though it's very rampant. I've gotten two potentially fraudulent copyright claims on two of my live streams recently, but it's one of the reasons why YouTube is very quick to act on it, because essentially the way it works, from my understanding, from all my research, is they are not liable until they are made aware. They are not liable until they are made aware of the fact that it is infringing upon someone's copyright, at which point they have to act immediately. And it's one of the reasons why they have very proactive measures so they can just deal with it right away. Like YouTube, because of the fact that it's a pretty much open platform, that videos do not have to be reviewed, that there is no process that YouTube has to actively have a person say this video is okay, this video is not, this video is wrong for this reason, this video is okay because it doesn't have any of that. Because there's no process like that, YouTube is not made immediately aware of if there is a case of copyright infringement. Now, they have their auto check system, but that can only do so much. If whatever copyright material is in a YouTube video is not part of their check, because they can only check so much, then it won't be made immediately available. But they will continue to do background checks in the background and allow a content creator that has something up on YouTube to know that, hey, you have the chance to check this and tell us whether or not it is copyright infringement or not. And this leads to a lot of copyright trolling and stuff like that. But YouTube, it's passive. They don't actively know whether or not they reactively know whether or not something is copyright. They have to react to it. But the Nintendo Store has an approval process. The Nintendo Store has an approval process that requires the video to be reviewed and use that as a determination on whether or not it is allowed on the store. Now, let me pop up the website real quick. So here's the process. I just popped up the developer portal for Nintendo. The developer portal for Nintendo, the process. Step 1, create your account. Okay, simple enough. Step 2, prepare for Nintendo development. Sign into the portal using your new account and accept the non-disclosure agreement and terms of service to gain access to platform SDKs, developer support, and more information on how to get started. Access to Nintendo Switch information requires a separate application after registration. 3. Create your game. To help you develop your game, Nintendo provides plenty of documents for each platform. These are a good starting point if you encounter any problem. If something is unclear or not covered by the documentation on the portal, you will find the forum section in Japanese and English where you can ask for help from the Nintendo software development support or other developers. Your experience is also welcome. And here's the step where Nintendo can't claim the same sort of thing that YouTube can of, oh, well, we didn't know. Prepare to sell your game. Step 4, prepare to sell your game. When your game nears completion, you can start preparations for the release of your game. Sign a publishing agreement, attain an age rating, and submit your game for review by Nintendo. Before you can publish your product, you'll need to submit it to Nintendo for reviewing. This process is necessary to ensure that the game can be safely played and conforms to Nintendo production standards. It is a good idea to keep in mind the Nintendo guidelines during the entire development process. And then there's step 5, submit PR materials, and step 6, sell your game. But because of that step, Nintendo cannot as easily say, oh, well, we didn't know. We were not aware that we had something that was infringing upon copyright. And a lot of the comments that I got to were like, well, you don't get mad at Steam when they release a game that's just an asset flip or a clone or clearly trying to copy something else. But you would get mad at Steam if they were aware of that. And yes, there are so many games out there, including popular games that someone might never know about. There's a lot of popular games out there right now that, like, if you submitted an asset flip of it, I might not realize that the two are correlated because I never played the game. I'm not aware of it. So the development team, or the review team for the store might not be aware that that game is a thing and that this new game that they were reviewing is something that is clearly infringing upon that copyright, clearly a clone, clearly infringing upon IP. It's possible. That's true. You would definitely be mad if they refused to take it down, unless you're one of those people that believe that, IP shouldn't exist, which I completely disagree with. Whatever. But you would definitely be mad if the Steam store didn't take it down. But there's an ongoing lawsuit regarding Palworld that is very public, that everyone knows about. Everyone has seen the art. Everyone has seen it. Especially the people working at Nintendo have no doubt been made imminently aware of this game. It will be very, very hard for them to try to say, oh, well, I didn't know that this looked exactly like Palworld. And even if that individual can say, oh, well, I didn't know, ultimately, it doesn't quite matter as much, because ultimately, the company is held liable for the decisions made by its employees while at work. With that in mind, it would be very hard for Nintendo to say that, oh, we were not made aware of this, so we did not know that this was a thing. We can't be held liable for this. Now, because of their active review process, because of the fact that they actively have to look at the game, review the game, make sure it's meeting their standards, make sure it's meeting their guidelines, make sure there's nothing in there that's going to damage someone's console or anything like that, and have to actually actively look at the game and actively look at the PR materials and actively look at those things that very obviously look one-to-one. It's very hard for them to say no. Now, what does the law say? What does the law say? And in America, I know it's a thing that would be very easy to do. It would be very easy to sue a company. One, you can sue someone for anything in America, but in America we have a concept of a summary judgment, where a judge can look at the case and look at the merits of the case and say no. We're not even going to bother to take this to court. It's going to waste court resources. We're not going to, because there's no merit to this case. Japan doesn't really have that, which is one of the reasons why Palworld is still Pocketpair with Palworld is still stuck in this lawsuit, because likely one of the reasons, to be fair, and I can't 100% say because of the weird way Japan protects lawsuit information, but likely one of the reasons, because even if everything is in Pocketpair's favor, they still have to litigate the case. By the way their court system works, they still have to litigate the case. American law, definitely you can sue if a distributor does it. But again, there's steps to it. Because I'm going to go over what it could happen and then what would likely happen. According to Japanese law, according to their copyright law, under Article 113 of this law, which is acts deemed to constitute infringement, The importation for the purpose of distribution in Japan of an object that is made through an act that, were the object to be made in Japan at the time of its import, would constitute infringement of the moral rights of the author, the copyright, the print rights, the moral rights of the performer, or the neighboring acts. Subsection 2, the distribution, possession for the purpose of distribution, offering for distribution, exportation in the course of trade, or possession for the purpose of exportation in the course of trade of an object made through an act that infringes the moral rights of the author, the copyright, the prints, or the neighboring rights, including an object imported as referred to in the preceding item, with knowledge of such infringement. A lot of people's arguments, a lot of people's comments about how Nintendo cannot be held liable for this because it is not a Nintendo company, despite the fact that there are some conspiracy theories that I've seen that are saying, well, maybe Bogeysoft is owned by Nintendo and they're just using it for shady purposes. I have a video coming out, or maybe already out. I'm not sure. I'm recording both of these like back to back. I haven't released them yet, discussing that. Despite the fact, despite the fact that at least publicly Nintendo does not own Bogeysoft, and I don't believe that they do, despite the conspiracy theories. Despite that Nintendo does not own Bogeysoft, they are knowingly distributing something that they should know, and through the review process should have discovered violates copyright, infringes upon IP for Pocketpair. And this doesn't even have to go with the weird a bit of, well, it's imported because it's from a different country or a company from a different country. Because finding any information on Bogeysoft itself is really hard. If you look at Bogeysoft, you get a different company called Bogeysoft. So we don't know where Bogeysoft is from, but Pocketpair and Nintendo are both Japanese companies. So when Nintendo saw that, when their review person saw that game, and because of the very public nature of the lawsuit between Nintendo and Pocketpair over Palworld, should have been imminently aware that it is, in fact, violating that copyright, or would likely violate that copyright, they can be held liable. Now, at the very least, United States law and the way a lot of other countries' laws work, the first step is issuing a DMCA notice and giving them the opportunity to take it down, because they are the distributor, they're not the creator. Could Bogeysoft be sued? 100%. Does it look like Bogeysoft is probably a company that has any amount of money that would be worth suing them over? Probably not. They release a lot of cheap carbon copy games that are scaled down in 144p versions, and then they release them super cheap. So do they probably have a lot of money? No. My personal kind of conspiracy theory at this point is that they're just a troll company. They're just trolling. They're not expecting to make any money. They're just trolling. So the likely step is a DMCA notice, and at least the way that I understand it to be is it would be likely they issue a DMCA notice, they're given an amount of time to fix the issue, and then after that they can be actually sued for damages and for the profits and for this and for that and whatever sort of damage to their IP, damage to sales, because now there's this cheaper carbon copy version of it, how much money they made in sales already, et cetera, et cetera. Do I think that's likely to happen? No. I think Pocketpair has better things to worry about, a bigger lawsuit on the horizon, so I don't think they'll sue them. Will they maybe issue a DMCA notice? Possibly, but I can also see them issuing a DMCA notice and then Nintendo uses it. See, they're just as bad as we are, because while that might not help them in court, it would definitely kind of hurt Pocketpair's public image to some people. So do I think there will be a lawsuit over this? No. But could there be a lawsuit over this? Absolutely. There could 100% be a lawsuit from this, because it does violate Japanese copyright law. And it violates copyright law in a lot of other countries. But that's all I got on this. This was really just kind of when I started seeing a lot of the comments that were like, ooh, could this be a countersuit? Originally, I started responding to them, well, no, they couldn't sue Nintendo because it's not a Nintendo company. It's not a Nintendo product. But then I thought about it a little bit and started doing some research, because I was like, well, YouTube has to risk being sued over DMCA and copyright infringement. Could it? Did the research? Yeah, they could. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but they could. But that's the end of the video. Thank you guys. If you've reached this far, please leave a like, a subscribe, a comment. Every bit of engagement really helps these videos do better and helps it be seen by more people. And if you are so inclined and you want to sign up for memberships, the membership information's over there. We're starting to get a little bit better about releasing videos to members first. So they get them a little bit early. I'm trying to find ways to do more member-specific content and members-only stuff that doesn't make me feel weird and gross about the fact that I'm restricting content to only the people that pay me, kind of thing, because that does kind of make me feel gross. But the big thing about the memberships is it's a great way to show support, and 100% of the funds from the memberships is going to go straight to my editor until between ad rev splits and membership funding, I can afford to hire him on full time. Because after that point, then some of it will go to me and some of it will go to hiring more freelancers or hiring more people to help me make more content, because I have so many projects I want to start working on. But the big thing with that is if we get to the point where I can hire him full time and potentially start hiring other people to help out too, then I will be able to put out a lot more content a lot faster, and it'd be good for me, and it'll be good for anyone that enjoys my content. As well, I do stream 4 times a week, sometimes more, on here and on Twitch, because of the nature of YouTube streaming, where they don't really have as great moderation tools and anti-bot stuff. Just to avoid dealing with harassment, I only turn on members only chat, or I turn on live commentary for only approved users. All members immediately get listed as an approved user. But if you comment underneath the pinned post with the phrase Runga stream, RUNGA stream, then I will add you as an approved user. I'll review your account real quick and add you as an approved user so you can comment during my streams. Anyways, that's it. Bye.